Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Amendment number 1 simply directs the State Board of Pharmacy to begin to adopt rules for pharmacies and how they protect and keep safe opioids that they're selling from their store. It would require the State Board of Pharmacy to adopt rules for them to keep these in time-delayed safes, of which many pharmacies are, but many are not as well. Indiana has, over the last few years, continued to be a leader in the nation in the number of pharmacies that are robbed for prescription drugs. These drugs then end up in neighborhoods and communities around the pharmacy and continue to be a part of the pervasive problem of opioid addiction in our community. I urge your adoption. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House, Amendment 2 seeks to address this issue from a different perspective. If this body doesn't have the courage to help ensure that our communities are safe from opioids, we should at least make sure that the employees inside these pharmacies are able to protect themselves. Oftentimes, many companies here have policies in which they tell their employees that if you defend yourself, if you're being robbed, that you will be fired. And this has happened. Pharmacists are fired for defending themselves if a robbery takes place inside the pharmacy. It's become so pervasive that this is known, that this policy exists, that law enforcement here in Indianapolis have told me that sometimes children come in, 13 years old, and pretend to rob the pharmacy with no weapon. And the pharmacist, for fear of being fired, is told by the company policy to empty the safe or provide whatever opioids exist to the person robbing the pharmacy. With no gun, no real robbery taking place. But because they're afraid to be fired, because they're not allowed to defend themselves, their life, they are forced to just hand these pills over. This amendment would state that a pharmacy cannot terminate, demote, or retaliate against an employee for defending themselves. I urge your support.